All right, I'm here with Jerry Jampolsky, and he's a wonderful thought leader who is about to turn 90. Is that right? Or you are 90?
I'll be 90 in February, yes.
In February. So, Jerry, tell me, first of all, we're having a small conversation here. What ignites your life?
I'm sorry.
What ignites your life?
What ignites my life is love.
Mm-hmm.
What ignites my life is my commitment to God,
mm-hmm.
to be a messenger of love and peace and forgiveness. That ignites my life, and listening to that inner voice tell me what to think, say, and do, to let go of all my judgments and condemnations of myself, and to be in a consciousness of giving and sharing and joining.
And it seems that to me, I read your book, Love is Letting Go of Fear, back in the 80s, and that's been a really important book to me personally. I love that book. But you talk about forgiveness, and when people think about forgiveness, it seems like they think about forgiveness of others. But talk about how important it is to forgive yourself.
Well, for most people, forgiving others is just a distant way of forgiving ourselves, because I believe that we project ourselves onto other people. It's like a movie screen. And many of us feel, because of our painful past, that may have a different form for each of us, that we are not forgivable, that we don't deserve to be loving or feel love, and that we think of the ego's way of looking at forgiveness as like weakness. And we think that forgiveness is a way of finding peace of mind. It's a key to happiness. And that it's probably the most important thing we can do. What's important is breathing.
So you have a story where you had depression, alcoholism, or heavy drinking, all kinds of difficulties. What do you attribute getting you out of that?
Well, I became a student of A Course in Miracles back in 1975. It was a whole different way of looking at the world, a different reality. A reality where we're more than just these bodies, where we recognize that we're spiritual beings, and that we're really, our essence is love, and that we're here to co-create love and experience a way of going beyond the body and seeing the light in each other, knowing that we are the light.
So you were a doctor, and you did early work with children and AIDS activism and that kind of thing. Was that sort of? It seems like that was early in your journey. When you were doing.
I'm a child psychiatrist and adult
mm-hmm.
psychiatrist, and
mm-hmm.
worked with children all my life. Began attitudinal healing, working with children who were facing cancer, who were facing the possibility of death,
mm-hmm.
and that's went on to working with people in attitudinal healing. Started in Tiburon, California. Now it's spread all over the world. We have groups and attitudinal centers around the world in many different countries, in Africa, in Nigeria, in Ghana, West Africa, in South Africa, in Japan, Mongolia, many centers in Mexico and the United States, and many different programs. They're all free, no charges made. Makes
a huge difference when it's free. So did you have any idea that your works starting as simply as saying love is letting go of fear, that would have the impact on the world?
Not at all. I flunked the entrance examination at University of California in 1943 and take a dumbbell English course. I'm dyslexic, so I had no ability to spell or grammar, and I got a D- in the course. And the professor came up the last day and said, "Jampolsky, I don't know what you're going to do in life, but for God's sakes, don't try to write a book." And of course, I believed him because I knew that I had all these grammar problems. I didn't write my first book till 1979.
Several years later.
Right.
And so in some ways you were fighting the demons of what was in your head from him. I
was
guess.
letting go of the things I put in the way of experiencing my natural inheritance, love and peace, and joy and happiness.
And I love how you say, make peace of mind your only goal and forgiveness your only function, right? Am I saying that right?
That is correct.
Yeah. So, and that, is that what you would, how do you have a happy life? I mean, what do you tell people? Is that it, or is there more?
I don't tell people what to do.
For starters.
I don't give advice. I think I would say that I'm there as a door opener, the consciousness of giving the others, opening the door that there might be a better way of living than attacking each other. That it's possible to wake up each morning with a commitment that today I'm not going to have any thoughts, I'm not going to have any attitudes or actions that are going to be hurtful to another person or myself. Well, I spent a good deal of my time being committed to feeling guilty and shameful for things I've done in the past, and a lot of people I was angry about, a lot of people I hadn't forgiven, and I thought that was just the way of life, just to be fearful.
And it's not.
I was letting go of fear.
That's right. That's such a great phrase. So how do you, when you meet someone, let's say a street person, they make you uncomfortable, or someone who is having an argument with you, or even issues like war, that kind of thing. How do you bring your love is letting go of fear into that? I mean, that's a hard thing to do.
I look beyond the behavior of a person. I look beyond the costume they wear. And I choose to see the light in them. I think we're all born with a light. I know we're all born with a light of innocence. And I do myself to identify with that light, and I've written a one-liner that I like doing, and saying, your light is all that I see is but a reflection of the light in me, and I might do that silently to myself.
Can you say that again?
Your light is all that I see, and is but a reflection of the light in me. And that allows me to be a co-creator of love and not to judge that person. I don't think judging other people and attacking other people is what we're here to do in this world that we see. In the real world has only love. Love is the only answer. Love is the answer to everything we face. So I see a different reality than my eyes tell me.
And so you can break through that. When there's a homeless person, you see their light. I guess it's focusing on their light.
Absolutely.
But what about war? I mean, I personally get very frustrated with, is the world changing? Are we ever going to stop fighting? I mean, what do you suggest for people's frustration with that?
I believe they look at their own mind and see the war that's going on inside of them, the anger they have for themselves, the mistakes they may have made that they're still feeling guilty about, the anger they may still be holding on against their parents and still at war with their parents or their brothers or siblings. I think healing of the world starts with healing our own mind, and the more of us that heal our own minds and join together, because we believe that minds are joined, the world we see starts to change.
Have you worked with troops or in the military, or?
Yes.
And what's the reaction been?
We've had a very positive reaction. People in the military, whether it's the Navy or Air Force or Army. Yeah. And everyone really is looking to find a better way of finding peace of mind. And that's what we try to open our hearts to and open our mind to, the possibilities that by changing our own mind, that we can find a different way of looking at the world, a different way of looking at reality, and to do our best not to be at war with ourselves. It has to stop there, right there.
And you're such a great teacher. I feel like you're the teacher that says, okay, now, the same thing, you have to keep, but you go back to the teacher and say, but wait, I have this question. No, the answer is love versus fear. I love that. I mean, it's such a straightforward answer. So teachers, who are some of your teachers? You talked about Course in Miracles, and I know you met Mother Teresa, and some other people have inspired you. Who?
Everyone I meet is my teacher.
Like that.
Everyone. A baby can be as much a teacher as a 150-year-old. I see everyone there to teach me, joining as one and expanding love to each other. So I see everyone as my teacher. I don't want to be a teacher of judgments. I want to demonstrate love. That is my reason that I'm here. That my purpose in life is to be a vehicle for love and forgiveness and happiness and joy and laughter, to be able to see a different kind of world where there's only love, where there's no pain, where there's no argument, where there are no wars.
Do you think that will happen someday?
I'm very optimistic that happens when we do that with ourselves, because the reality is not the world that we see with our eyes. And I do it's possible for us to learn to see a consistency of peace and love and joy within ourselves, and to know that we are united with our source as one.
And that's the reality.
That's my reality, and I think that's the real reality.
So talk about the one mind. You talk about that a lot. Explain that.
One line?
One mind. The one mind.
Well, we've been brought up to think that our minds are part of our brain, located in this bony box. And our belief system in attitudinal healing and Course in Miracles is that minds are joined. And that when we send out a negative message, that goes every place, to all minds. And when we send out love, it goes to all minds. So our friend Hugh Prather used to have a wonderful visualization that if we all put a TV screen on our head and all the thoughts we have in our mind go out to everyone that sees us, wouldn't we clean up our act? Lots of times we're smiling and saying, oh, I think that guy's a jerk, or what have you. So it means being consistent about believing that the purpose for communication is joining, whereas the purpose of this part of our mind, that's ego, is filled with fear, its purpose is for separation. And so I like thinking part of what we do in attitudinal healing around the world is create groups that are interested in finding ways of joining, ways of experiencing one with each other and letting go of the past and not seeing bodies as our identity. To see that we're spiritual beings, we're a spirit, not a body. We're one with all that is life.
And that's beautiful, and which extends to our need to take care of the environment. I'm sure you're
absolutely
very active in that.
And also, I'd like to say, it's the internal environment that we start with, not just the external environment.
I love that, and you keep going back to that because that's important. You got to start with yourself.
Yeah, it's not changing other people's attitudes. It's about changing our own attitude.
Yeah.
It's not going to say, oh, that thought doesn't need to change. It's really changing our own attitudes.
So what about energy healing? I mean, do you, what are your thoughts on that? I mean, that's a big topic these days, energy healing.
Well, I believe that our real reality is energy. And that when we really are one with all of life, we're really looking and celebrating what's invisible. You know, the real energy and love, the real energy and compassion and kindness and tenderness and gentleness. That's an energy. And I think that's is really what we are in. And that these bodies are just costumes that we're wearing, that the ego has manipulated us to have, rather than seeing us as eternal energy of love that creates love with each other. Yeah,
and what's interesting to me is you wrote your Love is Letting Go of Fear 40 years ago almost, and it was the key points from what I got was mindfulness, living in the now. That's a huge thing. And of course, mindfulness is more well known now, but you were a forerunner in that, talking about living in the now. I mean, did people think you were kind of strange when you were putting those concepts out there back then?
Yeah, there was, I'm a physician and psychiatrist, and they shouldn't be talking about spiritual things. And they never talked about forgiveness when I went to medical school. And today my wife, Dr. Diane Sarah Jampolsky, a psychologist, we've spoken to many medical schools now and given lectures on forgiveness there. So there's been a real shift in medicine about looking at the spiritual aspects of our lives and seeing them as more important than the body aspects.
And the mind-body connection.
Yes.
Well, I'm glad you brought up Diane, because one of my questions was, what's the key to your happy marriage?
Well,
what do you do to make it happy?
what we do is we wake up in the morning and we do a prayer. It goes like this. It comes from the Course of Miracles. I'm not a body. I am free, for I'm still as God created me. I want the peace of God. The peace of God is everything that I want. The aim of all my living here, the end I seek, my purpose, my function in my life, while I abide where I'm not at home. And then we create an affirmation that we made that today we're going to believe and commit that this day is going to be the happiest day of our lives, regardless of what's put on our plate and regardless of the state of our body. And then we're going to choose not to be a victim of the world that we see. And then we're going to celebrate our spirit. We've created a to-be list. And some of the things on the to-be list rather than the to-do list is celebrating our innocence, celebrating our guiltlessness, celebrating our judgelessness. And one word that we made up, interpretless, stopping to interpret people's behavior to see who's guilty and who's innocent in our own behavior. To see the light in people rather than their lampshade.
Rather than their lampshade? I love that. I'm going to remember that visual. Your book has great illustrations too, by the way.
Thank you.
They really help. I love that. So one last question. What do you want to be remembered for?
You know, I don't really want anything. I feel that we have everything that we need, and I just want to be the light.
Just be the light.
I want to give the light. It's not that I want anything to be remembered by. I perhaps should ask another thing, tell you that the youth today are having a lot of difficulty in terms of what's going on in their life, their unhappiness, getting jobs, all other kinds of stuff. And a lot of the youth are really not interested in any spiritual book. So I decided to write a book that would be for them, that they might relate to. And it's a humorous book called The Oh Shit Factor, Waste Management for Our Minds.
Yeah.
And it's become quite a popular book, not just for young people, but for people of all ages.
I like hearing you cuss. That was good. Makes it real. Well, that's wonderful. Well, you are a light, and thank you. What's the phrase namaste?
Yeah,
the
peace.
light. It's the light in you meets the light in me.
Yes.
That's beautiful. You live namaste, really.
Do my best to do that, and I do my best. I'm very fortunate to have someone who's a spiritual partner who works with me since 1981 to help remind me about the importance of being gentle and kind. But the most important thing we do is practice forgiveness and having no thoughts that are hurtful to each other.
Yeah, it starts with yourself. Thank you so much, Jerry. Thank you for everything just that you've done in the world. And thank you for your writings and your wonderful book, Love is Letting Go of Fear. So thank you for your time today. I really appreciate it.
I should have the website we have for other people.
Yeah.
And that is ahinternational.org. ahinternational.org. We have centers and groups all over the world, and if you'd like more information about that, that's where to go.
And there are centers in each town where people can kind of go and go to meetings?
In each town, but there are quite a few different countries,
okay.
As I mentioned.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Jerry.
Okay, blessings to you.
You too.